Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you have been watching my other video, you know that I've been replacing front wheel bearings on this 2009 328 XI, and I've been showing what kind of tools I was using. Now it's time to replace the rear wheel bearings because it's making noise. It was pretty obvious to me that the wheel bearing was making noise, plus I confirmed that with the regular mechanical stethoscope. So I pinpointed, I raised my vehicle, all four wheels off the ground, put on a gear and turn off the DTC button on the dashboard. So the wheels were spinning, and I went underneath and I touched with the stethoscope each knuckle, so I knew the wheel bearings are making noise. Anyway, if you're planning to do the same bearing replacement on your BMW, even if it's a rear wheel drive, it's going to have exactly the same setup. So watch this video so you will know what kind of tools you will need, because there's no way you can do it without proper tools. Now the wheel bearing that I'm going to use is going to be brand FAG, made in Slovakia, and in this box it comes with already with the axle nuts and the locking ring. Well, a locking ring you still can reuse it in most cases, but the axle nut not really. So if you're planning to do the same procedure, make sure that you're going to buy a new locking nut. Now guys, don't forget, safety number one, choke your wheels. Put your car on a jack stands. I put on both sides so it will be more stable. And now I can remove this jack. Now after I remove my wheel, I'm ready to remove my brake caliper, which is only 2 bolts from the back, one on the up, one down. I'll show you once I remove it. Now on my BMW those 2 bolts are 16mm, and I'm using this folding ratchet that I have with a little extension, but you know, anything whatever fits in your application, because you can do it from the inside. There's quite enough space. If you lift the rear end of the vehicle, there's enough room for removing those 2 bolts with different type of tools. Now after those 2 bolts are removed, simply slide out your brake caliper and put right here on this bracket right here, that is not going to hang on a brake line, because this brake line is short, plus it's pretty sensitive, along with this ABS sensor right here. So let it rest on something like this metal bracket. In my case, I'm not going to remove the knuckle or any other links, so I'm going to do it on the spot, replacing that bearing. Now when it comes to removing this brake disc, you need a 6mm hex key, and removing this screw right here. In my case it comes out fairly easy because I recently replaced the brake disc itself, but in your case it might be seized. So apply the brake handle, parking brake first, so it's going to hold the brake disc for you, the brake shoes going to hold it for you, and you'll be able to remove this little screw, and then you need to release the parking brake in order to remove the brake disc. In some cases the brake disc can be seized, you know, stuck in that position, so you have to hammer it on the side slightly, not too much if you're going to reuse the same brake disc, otherwise you might damage it. So on the side, hammer it little by little, and it will come out fairly easy, like in my case. Now next step is removing this axle nut, but as you can see there is 2 locking tabs, so you will need to take some kind of heavy-duty screwdriver or a little chisel like I have. This is called, I believe, diamond shape chisel, and I'm going to hammer it to unlock both of those, to pry them out, both of those tabs. In my case, chisel is working really well because of the shape of the chisel, as you can see. So I just hammer it a little bit, and now I can freely remove this nut. Most likely it will not come out that easy because this is an original nut, so I will be using impact gun. So same as on the front axles, you will need a 36mm 12-point socket, and you preferably, if you would use impact gun, it will help you a lot. Now next step, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a E12 Torx inverted socket, and I will be removing all of those bolts. I will spin my axle if I cannot access it. Don't forget to leave your car in the park position, so you'll be able to, I mean park neutral position, so you'll be able to spin your axle. And I will be removing all of those bolts right here. Be very careful to avoid damaging the boot of the axle right here. So this is pretty tight space. But before I do that, if you look closely, all of those splines are pretty, there's lots of rust for the last 15 years. So I'm going to use a PB blaster penetrating while I'll be removing those bolts. Hopefully this will help me with the pressing out the axle. Yes, pressing out, because it will not come out that easy, so I will be using special tool. Now here's a little tip. I have this snap-on socket, really convenient because it's already comes with a universal joint, and I have a regular Mac Tools inverted socket E12, and I have this made in US Apex socket. Now you would ask, why do you need 3 of them? Well, because in some application this is really handy because it goes into really tight spaces, and you cannot use this type of universal joint because it's too thick. But in this particular case that I'm working on removing those bolts on a drive axle, now this socket, the bottom portion of the socket is too thick, so I could use a Mac Tools because it's thinner, but the best fitment would be Apex tools because this is the thinnest between all 3 of them. And plus I'll be using this universal joint. I just don't want to damage that boot, because you cannot really have that much of a control when you're removing all of those bolts with the impact gun. And yeah, this will be too close to a boot. This will be maybe okay, but I rather use the thinnest one that I can find. Now I got this Apex socket from eBay. This is made in US, part number MTX3412, and this one is magnetic. Really unique socket, really worth $12 or $14. It's a time saver, and in my case that's what I'm going to use. And I'm going to use it from the, I'm going to use my socket with a long extension, as you can see, from the top, because of the angle of the drive axle itself. So I can have a better fit from the top than from the bottom, because as you can see the socket is touching the boot, but from the top is not touching because the axle is facing down. So I'll be removing one by one from the top. And before I start removing it, I just wanted to show you how it fits. From here you will not see much, so I'll go underneath again. As you can see, it's barely touching the boot, and this is my goal. So it will fit snug all the way to the end, and I can have good control without stripping a bolt. Now all of the 6 bolts are safely removed. I will be reusing them, even though that probably is not recommended by a book. because they will be calling it like a stretching bolt, but they are in perfect shape, and this is the first time they've been removed, so I don't think that I have to worry about that. Now, once those 6 bolts are removed, now you can take a little pry bar and pry out the axle, so you'll be able to drop it down, so it will be resting freely. Maybe I will be using some bungee strap to hold it. Now guys, I find it much easier with another jack to lift up underneath of the shock, and you don't have to pry it out. As long as the axle will be straight, you will be removing it freely with just a bare hand. As before, I did not lift up the knuckle, and I was trying to remove it with the pry bar. As you can see, there is a little dings I did, which is not that important, but because it's not too much, but still I rather avoid any damages right here, so that's why it's better to lift up with the jack. Now I also use this bungee strap, so this axle will be not going down under its own weight. Now my next step will be pulling out the axle, but it's comparably to Mercedes-Benz, BMW actually have pressed in axle. It looks like just the splines, but there's lots of rust over the years, plus it is pressed in, so it has to be pressed out and then pressed in. This is the puller that I'm going to use to press it out. This is a hydraulic puller that I got it not long time ago, maybe not even 2 years, but anyway, it's a hydraulic puller made in Germany. It's a Kuko brand. You can find similar tools on eBay, made in Taiwan or China. You don't have to buy really expensive one. This one was on sale, so that's why I bought it. Anyway, so instead of hammering out, which is basically impossible to hammer it out, well, maybe you will have luck, but it will take a long time, plus there is a big chance that you will mushroom this thread and you will not be able to reuse the axle unless you will rethread this shaft. Too much work, too expensive, so too dangerous. So better to use the puller like this, puller or pusher, and it will push that axle out. Let me show you how. Now this is a setup. I just use the lug nuts, lug bolts, and now this hydraulic cylinder, which is a 10-ton, going to push out that axle for me, which is not going to be that easy, and but this puller should do the job. Now as you can see, I put the pry bar against the asphalt, and I can spin with my one hand and holding camera with other hand, and this little hydraulic 10-ton ram it will be doing the job. I can also use a socket on this one if I don't want to do it with this handle. So it's going to take a couple minutes to do so. I'll show you the final result. Now guys, after 10 minutes I finally was able to press out the axle. As you can see, there's lots of rust. It's never been removed from that flange before. This is first time in 15 years, and plus it was pressed in. There is a special tool how to press it in. I'll show you later, but the point is that you can imagine how stuck it was, how pressed in it was, that this 10-ton puller could not manage it in 1 or 2 minutes. I even broke that one of the walls on that puller. Well, the primary reason why I broke it, that I've been using aftermarket bolts. Well, this is how this car came, with those type of bolts. Maybe original lug nut bolt would be slightly longer, and I could be able to use the spacers that was provided by this manufacturer. So I could install this spacer and put between the walls, so it would cover more area, would be more you know, sturdy. But I did not use those spacers because the bolts were too short. And so anyway, I broke one of the walls, and there is another one almost broken. There's some walls in between the holes are much thicker, as you can see, so it's okay. But yeah, this is another learning experience. Well, I think that my tool is under lifetime warranty, so they should replace it free of charge, hopefully. Well, I'm ready to pay for the shipping if this is the case. But yeah, so be careful. Maybe your bolts are original and they are longer. If you'll be using this type of a puller, then yeah, be careful. Maybe you should put those shims or washers, whatever you call them. Now the next step is pulling out this flange. So I'm going to use a sliding hammer that I have right here, and just going to attach it directly. By the way, I made that adapter for this this big adapter came with the puller. Big adapter came with this puller, but not this middle one, because it was a different thread. This one was a metric, this was imperial standard, so I made this adapter. Now you can even use this type of a flange, hopefully, but because the bolts are smaller than Mercedes-Benz, they are thinner. The Mercedes-Benz bolts are much thicker, so they don't go through unless you drill it out. But anyway, this is a snap-on original one. Probably it would work too. Okay, let's remove that flange. Now I'm going to whack it a couple times, and it should come out fairly easy because that bearing was very loose. And after 3/4 slides, this 8-pound hammer was able to pull out that flange, so everything is fine. Now the next step is removing this heavy-duty snap ring. Be very careful, maybe use goggles, so because it can spring and damage your eyes or any other parts of your body. So I'm using this pretty heavy-duty special circlip pliers, Knipex brand, model 4811J3. I find it the best between all other brands because it fits exactly. It's very strong, and it can remove it one shot. I just need to hold it with my other hand, so I'm going to turn off camera. Now when it comes to removing this bearing race, you can use a grinder as long as you're not careful to cut the actual flange. But I'm going to use this type of a puller, Mueller Coops. Even though this looks like a German brand, but I don't think it's German. It doesn't matter. I used it a lot before and the jaws are perfect. There was no damages, so let me show you how this works. Now as you can see, this is a setup. I just push the trigger on the gun, and that race is gonna come out. Fairly easy without any damages. Here it is. Now as you can see, I removed the locking ring circlip from this bearing. Now it's time to press it out. So I have lots of room from the behind, and I'm going to use this type of a kit. It's called Hub Grappler Kit, OTC 6575. I've been using for many years now on many different vehicles, and it's working perfectly. So I'm going to choose a right size collar that I'm going to apply against the knuckle or this housing, not over but against, but should be the proper size that the bearing will fit inside of this. Well, let me put everything together and show you how it works. So in order to press it out, I need a small plate from the inside of the bearing to push it out. Then from outside I'll be using this collar right here and this plate, and everything will be pushed by this big bolt, just like that. So this is a setup. Now before I'm going to press out that bearing, there is a actual ABS sensor on my way, so I'll need to remove that one, otherwise I'll damage it. So I need 5mm Allen wrench key and remove it. Fairly easy to do, but this is very important. This is a small Allen bolt that holding this plastic sensor. So even if you break it, it's not that expensive, but still, if you're in the middle of your job, by the time you're going to get the new one, if you can buy it locally, probably from a dealer, but anyhow, if you're going to order from online, it's going to take a couple days, so you'll be without a vehicle. Be careful. So before I'm going to press it out, I just wanted to show how it's sitting and how it is sitting from the inside. As you can see, big wrench will be against this lower arm, so I didn't even have to hold it with my hand. Okay, now it should be pretty easy. And 2 minutes later, my bearing came out without any problems. Everything is clean, and as you can see, I didn't have to remove the knuckle because I don't have a shop press. Maybe I would, but most likely after that I would have to do the alignment again, because this is a 4MATIC, xdrive. Always mistaken that was a Mercedes. So after you remove the knuckle, most likely that you're going to change some parameters on the axle. So the best way would be to do the alignment, but in my case I'm doing everything without removing rear knuckle, so I'm fine. Now I'm going to clean everything nicely with the brake cleaner. Everything is in really good shape, and I'll be installing new OEM bearing. I know this is an OEM because this one also is the same brand. Now when you will be installing bearing, as you can see on this edge there is a special it's shaved off for you, that you know that it's going to go that way first. It's easy for you to press it in. Plus this one has a magnetic ABS not sensor but ring inside, so if you will install it with this orange to the inside, you will not have ABS, you will not have four-wheel drive, you will have a dash light, you know, a check engine light, not check engine, 4x4 light and ABS light on the dashboard. Your car still will be drivable, but you will not have those options. So make sure that this brown color will go first, and you will be facing this orange out. But this is on original bearings, on OEM. If you'll be buying aftermarket, you will have to take let's say screwdriver or anything that you have, and make sure that with magnetic side you can feel the magnetic with a screwdriver. It's going to be magnetized. Orange side will not have any, you will not feel any magnetic field, but this side will have, it will be magnetic. So make sure that if you will be installing aftermarket bearings, that you install it with this magnetic to the inside of the car. There's a little rust inside, so I'm going to clean it with this looks like a copper wire, or maybe it's just that color of the metal brush, but it's pretty soft, and it's cleaning the job and it's not doing any scratches. So clean it as much as possible. After I clean it, I will not be lubricating anything. I will be pressing in the way it is on dry. I never lubricated any of my bearings. Everything went inside smoothly. Now to press this bearing back, I will be using different plate, which is going to be slightly smaller than the bearing itself, but will be pushing bearing with this outer, not with the inner. I don't want to touch this inner race, so that's why it's this shape, so it will be pushing in. And from the back I'm going to use just the collar with the plate. So let me put everything together and show you. Now this is how it's going to look like, and I'm going to use a manual 1/2" ratchet instead of an impact gun because I want to control how it's going to be pressed in. So I'll be doing it slowly and gentle, and this is how it looks from the inside. So I don't have to hold the wrench because my wrench will be against that arm. Basically like this. And it should go back easy without any complications, as you can see, without any lubricant. Now as you can see, my bearing is pressed in. Now I'm ready to put my new ring, and I'm good to go here. Be careful not to touch this orange seal, because if you damage it, you have to put a new bearing. So be very careful when you're installing this circlip, and make sure that it's not it's sitting properly in that groove on its spot. Now I'll be preparing my my flange to press it back. But before I do that, I'm going to clean those splines, and I'm going to lubricate them with anti-seize, so it will come out easy next time whoever is going to work on this vehicle. Now, one thing that I wanted to mention before you're going to press in this flange, verify if this cover is not broken, it's not rotten, and it's not that don't need to be replaced, because this is a good time for you to replace this metal shield. Because if you press in this flange, there is no way you can install the new shield back. You can remove the old one, you can cut with the snippers, remove bolts, and you can get rid of the old broken shield. But to install the new one, there is no way you can do it with this flange and with this with those parking shoes. So this is a good time for you to inspect it and replace it if needed, because this is a BMW design. Pretty complicated, but it is what it is. Now, in order to press in this flange, I will need a plate from the inside of the bearing that will be pushing against this inner race, exactly pushing this inner race. And from this side of the flange, I'll be using any plate I have, any side I have, because I'll be pushing against this, just like this. So let me put together and show you. Now this is how it looks from the outside. Okay, make sure that you put that snap ring before you press it in, because you might forget. Well, from the inside, this is how it's going to look. Just make sure that your plate is not touching the magnetic ring, that brown or black magnetic ring. So it's supposed to touch only inner metal silver race. And now I'm ready to press it back, and again I'll be using manual ratchet instead of a gun. Now I just want to show you that I can do it with one hand. It goes back fairly easy if it's an OEM original bearing, and I don't have to hold it from the back because my wrench is holding it. Again, you must press with that plate only against that silver inner race, otherwise you will separate the bearing and you will have to do this job all over again. Get a new bearing, press it out this one, press a new one proper way. Well, I am all done here. My flange is pressed in, everything is spinning properly, no damages, everything is great. Next step, cleaning the drive axle splines as much as you can, but it doesn't mean that it's going to go very easy, because it came out extremely hard way, so it's going to go back also hard way. That's why I'm going to use a special tools that's going to grab with this thread. Internally it's going to go inside and pull it out. So let me show you what I'm talking about. In the meantime, I'm going to lubricate it with NTCs, those splines, and install the axle back and show you what tools I'm going to use. This is the NTCs compound, same that you're using for your brake pads, on the back of the brake pads. It has a little bit of copper inside, you know, in that compound, and this is what I'm going to use to lubricate those splines. Now I installed my axle back as much as I could, but this is it. You don't have any room to grab the thread, so you need a special tool. On the back I did the same as before when I've been removing. I use a rubber bungee strap to hold my axle in the upper position, and I know for sure that my splines are aligned with the flange. And now you need the special tools like this. Not necessarily this brand, because this is one of the most expensive one, because this one is made in Germany, but this is what factory uses. If you go on eBay, you will buy a similar tool for $50. It's called axle puller. So you see it's a thin wall and there's a thread inside, so you just insert this, and now with a bigger adapter it's gonna go over this, and then there's a pressure nut. So first you go this, insert this, okay, now this, and now this. Obviously I will be lubricating those thrust bearings and the thread, but I'm just giving you an idea how this works. Let me lubricate it, because I'm using this for the first time. I don't want to damage it. And now I will be holding middle rod with a 10mm wrench, and with a 24 big one I'm going to rotate clockwise, and it's going to pull out that drive axle easy way without hammering. And now 2 minutes later, look at this, guys. How easy is this job if you have a proper tools? Because if you look at my other video, I was using alternative tools because I didn't know that this original special puller exists. And I was not aware that BMW actually pressing in their axles. So, because I've been always dealing with Mercedes-Benz, and it comes out and goes back fairly easy. Now as you can see, the axle is pulled out, and I have enough thread to finish the job with the original nut. Really convenient, really worth it to invest. Again, look at my other video how I managed to do this job without special tools on the front wheel bearings, axles I mean. But then later on I found out that there is a special tool required, and so I purchased it. But again, you don't have to buy such an expensive set. You can go with a Chinese you know, knockoff or made in Taiwan. It's going to do the job if you're not working on the cars like I do all the time. So I buy more expensive tools because I want those tools to last me for many years. One of the last tips that I wanted to point, that you have to drop a couple drops of motor oil into this new nut when you will be installing it. That's what book says, for the easy installation, and that will be less friction during the installation. Now basically I am done. I'm not going to show everything, how I'm going to put everything back, because you've seen it on the beginning how I've been removing, and the same way I'm going to put it back. I will be installing this ABS sensor. I will be jacking up the knuckle again to make it even, leveling, and then put the axle back in place. I'm going to reuse those bolts on the differential, the same ones. I'll be very careful, and I will be applying torque. I'm going to Google it right now for every bolt, including this hub nut. Usually this hub nut, I am just when I'm using my impact gun, I'm just going to the maximum what my gun can handle it, and I never destroyed any of those nuts before, so I know that this is pretty safe. But still, you should stick to the original torque specs, including the brake caliper bolts. Those are very important. Well, this is it. Basically that's all you need to know. That was the most important information, how to change that bearing and what kind of tools you need to use before you take anything apart and you realize that you don't have something, because the tools are expensive those days, same as parts, original parts, so you have to do that job maybe once in 10 years, like replacing that bearing, and you should stick to the original parts and buy yourself a good tools. But in some cases, if you're just doing it yourself one time, you're not working on vehicles like I am, then maybe it's not even worth it to invest into the tools. Maybe it's worth it to go to the shop and pay them to do the job. Well, that's it. Stay safe, guys, and God bless you. God bless America, Canada, and God bless Ukraine. Bye. Guys, sorry, bonus. When you're going to retie those 6 torque E12 bolts on the differential, you want to mark it, each one of them, after you retie it, so you know that you already did the torque. And to prevent from drive axle spinning, just put a little pry bar in between your brake disc, and then with your torque wrench tighten it to 85 Newton meters. Just wanted to add this because I decided this is pretty important. Anyway, God bless you, good luck, bye.